Mikheil Janelidze, you are the Foreign Affairs Minister of Georgia. Thank you very much for joining us today on Live on Live. Now, you're here on an official visit to meet your counterparts, Jean-Marc Ayrault, this afternoon, and tomorrow you're going to the French Senate. What's on the agenda?
Thank you for the invitation to the program. It is very interesting to be here and to discuss issues and raise awareness of Georgia-French relations, which are excellent at this moment. We have excellent political relations, and we are deepening our ties in the field of economy, in the field of culture, in the field of education, in the field of science. So these are the topics we'll be discussing with my colleague, Jean-Marc Ayrault. We'll be discussing Georgia's European integration process, the association agreement we started to implement in full force since July last year. We'll be discussing Georgia's integration process into NATO and the implementation of the package in Georgia. We are going to discuss the issue related to the Georgia's territorial integrity and sovereignty. So there are many issues on the agenda. We have big support from France and French government, and we appreciate it very much.
France, however, is one of the countries that seem to be lukewarm towards full NATO integration for Georgia. Do you think you're going to persuade Jean-Marc Ayrault to actually further your case?
We have excellent cooperation with France in the defense and security field, and France has been contributing to the Georgia's defense capability building. Our cooperation in the defense field has been very successful during many years. Last year we had a visit of the French defense minister to Georgia in September, and we discussed plans how to proceed, how to make our cooperation even more successful, and to help to implementation of the package which has been agreed in Georgia-NATO cooperation.
When President Margvelashvili came last year in April, the European Union Georgia association hadn't actually been signed. Now, in July it was signed, as you mentioned, and a few days ago the European Parliament actually voted on exempting Georgian citizens from applying for visas when actually visiting most EU countries, except Ireland and the UK, but with the addition of Switzerland, Norway, Liechtenstein, and Iceland. Now, what does it mean in practice for Georgian citizens now to be able to come without a visa to most European countries? This will, of course, be implemented later on, probably end of March. But what would it represent?
First of all, we have to talk what is Georgia about today. Georgia today is, as you rightly mentioned, is an associated country with the European Union. And we have achieved a lot of progress in creating a truly European state. We have delivered reforms in rule of law. We have delivered reforms in building democratic institutions, ensuring proper protection of human rights. We moved up in all international rankings, according to the Rule of Law Index. We are ahead of not only regional countries, but many countries in Europe in general. We moved up in 2016 also in the index of fighting against corruption. Corruption Perception Index, according to the TI International. This year, World Bank forecasts more than 5% growth of our economy. We are receiving twice more tourists per year than the population we have. So this has been all a result of our proper integration and implementation of European reforms in Georgia. So this has been the result of deep and comprehensive free trade area agreement with the European Union we have. And the visa-free travel is a good complement to all of this, because it will provide opportunity to our entrepreneurs and businessmen to attend trade fairs here in European cities. It will be an opportunity for the representatives of culture to have their exhibitions, to have more exchanges with European counterparts. It will provide opportunity for tourists to visit and have more people-to-people exchanges. So it's a natural continuation of the processes we are in, because Georgia has proved to be a reliable European country, and it continues to be a very strong partner in every field for European Union and for European member states, including in defense and security field. We are one of the most reliable partners according to the global strategy on foreign and security policy of the European Union, and we contribute to European order and we contribute to the European security. So visa-free travel is a natural continuation of this very close cooperation and partnership we have with the European Union.
Now, Georgia's Prime Minister, Georgi Kurikashvili, actually visited NATO headquarters in Brussels in December. He repeated his country's commitment to actually joining to NATO, the military alliance. A month earlier, there's also a NATO-Georgia military exercise, a joint military exercise on Georgian soil. But it seems that little progress is being made towards full integration of Georgia, despite all the efforts made by Tbilisi, for instance, providing troops in Afghanistan, providing troops in Iraq, and now to the Central African Republic with the French, under French command. Now, do you not feel that frustration? Do you not feel yourself frustration at NATO's reluctance to accept Georgia as a full member?
First of all, I have to say that we are fully committed to implement the reforms which are making the integration process successful both for NATO and for Georgia. We are having the most comprehensive and deep partnership with NATO, and it has been declared by the heads of the governments and during the summit and heads of the states in Warsaw. We have annual national plan. We have NATO-Georgia Commission working very actively. We have NATO-Georgia substantial package, which is oriented on making Georgia resilient and capable of to defend itself. So we are, on the one hand, we are raising our defense capabilities, and at the same time we are contributing to the missions of NATO, and not only NATO. You mentioned Central African Republic. This is a mission of the European Union. This is a mission where French soldiers are participating, and just a few days ago we've sent our soldiers to strengthen further the mission in Central African Republic. We are also in Mali. So we are contributing to all of this, and at the same time, step by step, we are building our deep and comprehensive partnership with NATO, which will eventually lead to membership in the organization. We are an aspirant country, and we are at the same time very reliable partner for NATO and for every member of NATO.
So what, in your opinion, what actually stops NATO from fully integrating Georgia into the alliance?
So, as I mentioned, it is a matter of practical cooperation first, in which we are engaged very much, but at the same time, it requires a political consensus. So, once both goals are achieved, I think that membership can be achievable. And it is at the same time important to mention that NATO's Georgia's integration into NATO and our partnership with NATO is oriented on creating more peace and stability in the region where we have different conflicts, and whereas Georgia stands out with its stable development, with its European transformation, with its democracy and democratic institution building, and with its commitment to NATO and North Atlantic and European security and order.
Now, according to a paper by the Georgian Institute of Politics that came out early last year, it cited a previously published study which shows that frustration at seeing NATO and EU membership being put off endlessly has apparently led to increased pro-Russian feelings, with a number of people, for instance, favouring joining the Russia-promoted Eurasian Economic Union. The numbers actually grew from 11% to 31% in just 3 years. Now, is that something that worries you? Is that something that you're mentioning to your partners in the European Union and NATO? Are you telling them that if they do not move fast enough, there is a greater risk of seeing public opinion actually turning pro-Russia?
First of all, I have to say that the Georgian people have chosen the path of European integration since regaining independence 25 years ago, and it has been not just a choice, but it was a decision to return back to the European family to which we all always belonged to. Therefore, these actions which are implemented by the government of Georgia, they are supported by the Georgian people. We have one of the highest support to the European and Euro-Atlantic integration process, which is higher than 70%, and even higher. If it is higher than 70% for NATO, then it is in the range of 80% for the EU. So it is higher than in the EU member states, even the support to the European project and the European family. And we are very much motivated to explain to our population not only the political benefits, but also practical benefits we are getting through this process. First of all, this is the building of democratic institutions in Georgia. This makes Georgia stable. This makes Georgia oriented on future development and creation a stable platform for the economic prospects and strong state. Therefore, we do it very regularly and effectively, the communication with our population, explaining to them the whole process we are in. Definitely, we need results on this integration process. The association agreement is the result, which was very supportive to our mobilization of people's support. Visa liberalization was again very important deliverable, which has practical and political meaning for Georgia.
But is it going to be enough? is it perceived in Georgia as being enough after all these years of negotiating?
Yes.
Is not, again, going back to the feeling of frustration there could be, there is among certain people, that the process is too slow?
There is no reason of frustration on European integration path, because we've been very we've been implementing all the plans which have been agreed with the European Union, which has brought us to the association agreement. Now we are concentrated on the implementation of the association agreement, and population and our people are also very much mobilized to implement each and every provision of the association agreement. It has three dimensions: political, sectoral, and trade integration. All those dimensions are very important results for the country, but also they have very practical meaning for each and every citizen. So we are doing our homework, we are doing our job inside the country, and people are supportive to that. Definitely, this kind of deliverables are like association agreement and visa are important to keeping this support. At this stage, we are having full support of our people in that process.
And so what's the next stage? Now that we've talked of visa and before that the association agreement, but isn't full membership the final objective?
Final objective of Georgia, definitely, it's full-fledged membership of the European family. We are doing everything in order, first of all, to create a state which, even without name of a being member of the European Union, will be considered as a country already having the same level of development as institutional development as, for instance, European member states. We need this support from the European Union in that regard. We are getting support in the form of technical assistance, in the form of financial assistance, but we are spending also our resources, and we are spending much more than even candidate countries were spending on reforming its institutions and reforming its sectors. And we continue to be committed to this process to achieve the goal of being a full-fledged member of the European family.
Now, I was going to ask you a question about relations with Russia, but I think there's one that's actually part of that as well. A US delegation of senators led by John McCain visited Georgia last month. They stated that Washington was still committed to support Georgia's freedom and territorial integrity. However, with President Donald Trump's apparent friendship with Vladimir Putin, isn't that casting a pall on the future for Georgia? Are you not afraid that this might impact Georgia negatively?
US-Georgian relations have been very important for Georgia, and since regaining independence 25 years ago, US has been the strongest supporter of Georgia's territorial integrity, sovereignty, our development aspirations, building the democratic state, and our European and Euro-Atlantic integration. We have institutionalized our partnership. We have a strategic partnership commission which has its own formats, and it works regularly. And in this institutionalized format, we are discussing and developing relations in every field of bilateral interest. At the same time, we have, with this official formats, we have also strong support in the US Congress. Last September, there was a bipartisan resolution adopted about Georgia's territorial integrity and sovereignty. So Democrats as well as Republicans are very much committed to Georgia and developing further U.S.-Georgian relations. Therefore, I think based on all these facts, we believe that new administration also will continue very active partnership with Georgia because there are many common interests, there are many common projects in place, and we believe that those old projects will be continued and even new projects will be found.
Do you have a date for a meeting with Rex Tillerson, the new Secretary of State, at this stage?
We are working on that meeting, and we are working also on other meetings with the new administration. I had some telephone calls and conversations with the members of the new administration, and we are working on the visits, which will be also in the format of the established formats of the strategic partnership.
But there's no official visit planned at the moment, either side.
I'm planning in the coming days my visit to DC, so I'm also we are working on the exact date of the meeting with my colleague.
And what would you be asking your colleagues or your counterpart, Mr. Tillerson, if you meet Mr. Tillerson?
First of all, it is important to draw attention of the new administration to what Georgia is today. That Georgia today is a very important country in the region with its development, with its contribution to European and Euro-Atlantic security. We need to assess the level of cooperation partnership we have today with the new administration together, and then plan new steps. Definitely continuous support of the United States to our territorial integrity and sovereignty, and support to our democratic processes, and strengthening our defense and security field is very important.
Mikheil Janelidze, thank you very much for joining us today on Live on Live.
Thank you.